Welcome to Bumpin' the Night Society presents Exploring Your Society. I'm your host, Sean Bowman. I'm here with my co-host, Tom Barker. Say what's up, Tom.
What's up? How you doing?
Today we have Peggy Goodell, another paranormal investigator here with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory, Peggy?
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is Peggy Goodell, like Sean mentioned. I'm from Northeast Ohio. I've been investigating since about the mid 90s on and off. And I'm glad to be here with y'all.
That's good. Could you tell us how you got involved with the paranormal?
Sure. Like a lot of people, it started when I was quite young. I had experience when I was about 10 or 11. I grew up on 8.5 wooded acres. So there's a lot of acreage, there's a lot of trees, a lot of great places to go and explore. We found a lot of Native American arrowheads and other paraphernalia here on the property. And so we're pretty sure that this was inhabited at one point by Native Americans. So when I was about 10 or 11, I had a pony. It was a black and white pony. And if you look at photos from the time period, you'll notice that a lot of the Native Americans had ponies that looked like mine. So I think that's what led to this experience that I had. So I was riding my pony bareback. Sometimes I ride with a blanket. At the time, I had very long, dark hair parted down the middle. And my grandma always said that I looked like a Native American girl when I was riding my pony. So I was going through the woods one day and I looked up and I saw this Native American boy looking at me. And you know how people say that the world just kind of stops. So we locked eyes. Nothing, I couldn't hear anything. It's like everything just slowed down. Right before that, I heard birds chirping, and there were squirrels playing around, but complete silence. So I don't really know why I did this, but I looked away for a second. I looked back and he was gone, and the world just kind of came back at me. And so I am convinced that I saw a Native American spirit at that time. A couple other experiences. I'm not psychic or sensitive or empathic by any means, but I do occasionally have dreams where relatives will visit me, and I wake up very comforted and I just know that somebody, one of my relatives had visited. The last time this happened was last year. My parents passed away in a short time period. My dad passed in April, my mom passed in July. The night that my mom passed, I had a dream where she and my dad were walking away from me hand in hand. And so I believe that was her way of showing me that they were okay and that they were together again. And so ever since then, my first experience, I've been interested in the paranormal and what we can find out about afterlife and the other worlds.
Well, I definitely have had some type of similar stuff too, where I had both my parents pass away. My dad was in 2011, my mom was in 2018. And I don't know, I think maybe like the first week or two after, they say like the veil is thin or whatever. My mom was living with me because of her health problems. And I would walk out from my bedroom into the bathroom. She used to always sleep in the recliner. And I swear, after she passed, I would still see her sitting there in the recliner.
Yeah, both my parents are alive, so I gotta wait for that stuff. I'm happy they're alive and doing well, so.
It's funny that you mentioned that I would sleep in the recliner. That's my dad slept in the recliner instead of a bed. I mean, he would never go upstairs to him. He'd always sleep in his recliner. And that's actually where he passed. So I found him there, when I came over to visit him. And so that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's actually the same. She passed right in front of her recliner. Actually, I was at work and my son was home. My son's 19 now. He was still in high school at the time, I think, but she died on January 2nd. So they were still on Christmas break. But I had the Life Alert call me and I was at the movie theater. I take care of adults with special needs. And I was, with a guy and they called me and were like, we need permission to break in the house. Your mom set off the Life Alert, and, obviously I gave him permission. Luckily there was other people there with me. They took my client so I could head home. And on my way home, my son calls me and he's like, you have to get here right now. Cause I didn't think it was anything serious,
Yeah.
But as soon as I get home, like, first off, there's paramedics, there's police, everything. I walk in the door and my mom's laying on the ground, like under a sheet, like she's already passed. And one of the things that really like was messed up is my son was sleeping. He used to sleep in the basement. Like there was a bedroom in the basement. And when nobody answered the door, you know, like they kicked in the door, they were like searching the house because they didn't really know like what was wrong with her at first. And my son, you know, he sleeps in his boxers. He was half naked. He gets up out of bed and they pull guns on him. And he's a teenager because the police thought he like might have had something to do with it, you know? And I'm like, I know it was a traumatizing experience for him. Not just that, because, you know, they were doing CPR on her and everything too. But yeah, rough time.
Yeah, I guess it's not to laugh about, but that's crazy that they pulled a gun on him and all that. That's not.
Yeah.
They didn't knock on the door, or you just didn't hear them, or what happened there?
I mean, they knocked on the door, but he was in the basement sleeping, so like he couldn't hear them down there.
Right.
He could sleep through whatever, anyways. So he was a teenager. You know, teenagers, they can be knocked out easily. That didn't come off right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next topic.
So what would be your favorite place you ever been to, Peggy?
Yeah, so Madison Seminary is my favorite place. We talk about those locations where you walk in and it's just like you're walking home. You feel very comfortable in it. You just know that you're meant to be there, drawn to it. Madison Seminary is one of those places for me. And there probably 4 or 5 times, and I have plans to go back a couple of times this year. It calls to me. It's one of those places that I really, really like a lot.
What is the history on that place?
Yeah, so the first thing was built in like 1846, and it was built as a boys' school. It wasn't a seminary, but there was a very high percentage of the boys who graduated from there who went on to become priests. And so it got the name Madison Seminary. Then it became the women's corps for Civil War widows and nurses, and so they took care of them there. At some point, I think the early 1900s, it moved from the women's corps to the Ohio Mental, I forget the exact title, but Ohio Department of Mental something or other, what it was called at that time. And that's where things really kind of went sideways. So, you know, you'd have women who were committed there just because the husband wanted them to be committed there. They didn't necessarily have anything wrong with them, but they weren't treated well. And so I think because of all the different aspects these buildings were, there's just a lot of history and a lot of spirits that are still residing there, just trying to be heard. Have either of you been there before?
No, I haven't been there yet, but I think we're going this. When are we going? Exactly.
Yeah, we're going August 21st. The main reason I remember that date is because it's my mom's birthday. So, but the funny thing is talking about like people being committed in that. I actually have a story with my grandmother on my dad's side. When she got married to my grandfather, I never really knew my grandfather. That's why I didn't like call him my grandfather, because he died in his 40s. But anyway, when they got married, my grandmother's mother, I guess my great grandmother, didn't want them to get married, and my great grandfather was a doctor, so he committed her for the day so they could get married, so she wouldn't do anything. Which my dad would probably be mad that I'm telling that story because it was like a family secret, you know. But wow, I mean, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, be committed for, you know, reading novels or just the weirdest thing, and it's just terrible what happened to them once they got there.
Which that's like, if you ever do go to Trans-Allegheny, they have a lot of stories like that where people were just committed over most heinous acts, just for like, you know, not listening to their husband or something. Like they would just, you know, the husband would commit them, leave them there for years, and it's just ridiculous, like the stuff you could get away with back then.
Yeah,
So
they actually had a list of all the things from like masturbation. I mean, I would never be out of that place, but I'd be committed for something.
yeah, Tala. I'm just going to gloss right on by that. So Tala is one of my,
You'll get used to
Tala
Tom.
is one of my is on my bucket list. Oh, yeah. The first, the first 5 minutes, he said that, he said, just call me the asshole. So yeah. So
That's
when I met you all at Bel Air House, he was very clear and
Tom is a straight shooter.
yeah.
Yeah, he really is.
They still call me the asshole, but I'm good with that.
Yeah, so Tala is on my bucket list. I was supposed to go last year, but COVID kind of put a chink in those plans. But I love the documentary that you guys did because it made me feel, like I was there. If you read the history, you can see, some of the evidence that people post, but to see an actual 1 hour, beginning to end documentary, I thought was really cool. So I appreciate that you guys had done that. And I like that within there, you talked about REM pods and what they do. And I know that Garrett had some education in there. And then of course you mixed in a lot of humor. And so it's a very good documentary. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your support for sure.
Well, Mikey gets a lot of credit for that because he did that whole thing. He spent a lot of time on that. So we got to give him a shout out for his hard work and effort he put into that.
Yeah, and
he
I mean,
did an excellent job.
He put I think he said 90 hours into it. So, I mean, it wasn't.
No doubt. No doubt.
And the thing is,
shows.
The thing is, too, is we have these other ones coming up. We have Bel Air, which he wasn't there the first weekend we went, but, we've spent 2 weekends there. I'm not sure how much footage we're using, if we're going to use both weekends or not, but there's a lot of stuff to go through that. And then if you count in Hillview, we have so much stuff from Hillview because a lot of us have been there numerous times. And that's why, I've told them, you got to teach us how to use the software because there's no way you can do it all by yourself.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, do you know what software he uses?
If I looked at my phone, he sent me what.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's all right.
But I know
Hillview is another place I really like to go. Hillview is another place I would really like to go to. It's close enough for me to drive there. Of course, not as close as you are to it, but it is another thing on my bucket list as well.
Yeah, Hillview is really cool. And the thing is, too, is like I said, I've been there so many times. We actually had we didn't get married there, Tom. Tom thought we got married there. We had our bachelor party there, me and Jen, and we had 26 people. And so we had Drake and Jay on last week. We know Sue. We know quite a few people from there. All good people. I'm sure we'll have some more from the future and on other episodes. But it's right up. We have a camp in Slippery Rock. So, Newcastle's like an exit or two down the road from there.
Oh.
So it's really close to us. We were actually thinking about maybe volunteering. Sue actually runs a haunted house up there, which I actually work for Scare House in Pittsburgh, but maybe you could do a little volunteer or something there too. I don't know. It's a cool area though. Cool place.
Definitely. Well, when we go, we'll let you know because we usually have room for another person or something.
Yeah, I think we were talking about October, November, I think, or something.
Yeah,
possibly.
we haven't scheduled it yet, but we were going to kind of do the end of the year. That was going to be our big thing. Just kind of back to Hillview.
And I mean, there's 8 of us in a group, but there's probably usually at least 10 of us, I'd say. And because I think you're supposed to have a minimum of 10, you could pay the full price to have less people, but I think it's supposed to be a minimum of 10. But the building's pretty big. I mean, there's technically 4 floors because there's the basement, the first floor, second, and the third. So you could definitely spread people out and, nobody else will bother you. And that's the good thing is going privately because I've been there privately and I've been there publicly. Actually, the first time I was ever there, me and Jen were there for the psychic convention and we did the daytime tour. We went back at night. And since we already did the daytime tour, they knew we were already there earlier. Oh, you guys can go break off, do whatever you want. So they let us do that at night. And it was only the first hour or so because, however long the tour took. But that was cool because they let us do that by ourselves. But then once you get a public with a bunch of people that don't take it seriously, is you have all this bullshit going on, people talking, walking, like disrespecting you, like, so as a private investigation, I definitely would highly recommend it over public.
Yeah, it's your evidence is contaminated just so easily, because I'm a solo investigator. I don't belong to a team, so I go where I can. But there are a couple drawbacks to that. Is first of all, it's very pricey. To do a private investigation by yourself, it's very pricey, number one. And number two, not all places allow you to do a solo investigation. So many times I'm going by myself, but it's going to a public event, which is okay because, a lot of these places are large enough where you can get privacy and, get off by yourself. But it's just something that you have to work around when you by yourself.
Well, talking about like solo stuff, I know, not me personally. Actually, I know Garrett, who was part of us. He's been a couple places on his own. I won't say where, obviously, but like you technically weren't supposed to be there. Have you ever done anything like that? You don't have to say where, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm a rule follower to some extent, so I'm not brave enough to go to a place where I'm really not supposed to be. I'm too good of a person. I'm afraid of getting caught, I think is my problem. Not afraid of the spirits. I'm afraid of the people who tell me I'm not really supposed to be there.
Which I'm not encouraging that. I just know that's a common thing urban exploring is definitely tied in with paranormal investigating.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can go urban exploring in places that are just abandoned and you're not breaking the law, right? But there are some places where you're definitely not supposed to be. I know that I think Saratoga has that problem where people are breaking in when they're not supposed to be there. I think Saratoga Homestead is one of the biggest ones that I hear about all the time, that people are breaking into that place.
It's crazy the stuff you keep bringing up, because my grandmother's from Saratoga Springs, New York. And it's weird that you just mentioned that, because I used to go there like every summer and everything else to visit my grandma. And it's weird that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I went to, it's like a street or a neighborhood that was totally abandoned. Everybody left. It was out by West Mifflin or somewhere. I forget what it's called.
I think I know what you're talking about, Tom, but I don't remember what that's called either.
Me and my son went I belonged to a gun club at the time, so I had a bunch of guns in my car, and I'm like, hey, why don't we stop at this place? And he's like, all right. And then we get there, and there's big signs saying no trespassing, this, that, and everything else. And I'm like, screw that, I'm going. So he hung back. And here the police department actually had cameras like back there. So they showed up, and my son calls me. He's like, Dad. I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, the police are here. And I'm like, well, I was probably 5 minutes down this road. I'm like, well, I'm on my way out. So I get there, and they have all these guns on the hood of my car, because I had all these guns with me. And I'm like, they're like, well, why'd you go back there? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, curiosity killed the cat. I'm like, I don't know. But they let us go. But
because I'm a rebel and it said not to.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like no trespassing, big signs in the gate. And I'm like, fuck this. And I walked back, and I had all kinds of guns in my car, and the police were, I'm like, oh man. But oh well, that happens.
I think 9 times out of 10 though, as long as you're not like vandalizing anything, or you get a bunch of drunken teenagers doing these things, I'm like I said, I'm not encouraging it, but I think usually they'll let you off as long as you're not doing anything like bad.
If you're Tom Tiger King.
I don't know. I couldn't, and the police were like, why'd you get back here? I'm like, well, I'm into paranormal stuff. And there was like a legend that was, I don't know, there's some type of monster that was eating all their dogs, and the people just packed up and left. Because I mean, there was actually people who left their cars there. There were people who left like food on the table, and they all just like
Yeah.
ran, and it didn't really make any sense. And they're like, "Well, we don't like people back here because all the heroin addicts leave their needles and shit back here." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's nice to know."
So I'll get to Tom's favorite question. What's your favorite ghost show?
So yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of them. Destination Fear is a good show, mainly because they have highlighted some of the places that I've gone. So when I do watch these shows, it's more for the history, and it's also to kind of figure out if it's something that I would want to go to. So you just kind of have to wade through what it is that they're bringing up, try and see through what they're saying to get to what the truth that's there. So I don't watch a whole lot, but there was one with Michelle Belanger, and I don't know why I blank on this every single time.
Paranormal State.
Paranormal State. Thank you. Every single time. I will blank on that every single time. That was one of my favorites early on too. So I don't watch a whole lot of them, but again, when I do, it's mainly to know if it's a place I would want to go visit.
Yeah, they do go to some good places, and you know, I put Ghost Adventures on, but you know, like I said, they had an episode where they were down in Gettysburg and they filmed an apparition crossing the tracks at the train museum, or not train museum, but it's a train station down there. And I just had my camera down and shut it off, and I seen that exact apparition go across the thing. And I ran right at it, you know, and there was nothing there, but you know, they do catch some things, but you kind of got to sift through, you know, because you know, they're there for entertainment. I get that. So they kind of get a little dramatic over things, but they do catch some decent evidence here and there.
Peggy, have you ever been to Gettysburg?
No, I have not. It's another bucket list place I would like to go.
Because I think, Tom, I told you this story. Me and Jen were there the one time, and it was probably like around, I don't know, somewhere in the winter, because it was snowing out. It was really cold out. We were driving down the battlefield, and we saw a guy full on military outfit walking around through the snow. And it was, I'm like 99% sure it was a person, but like Jen even has it on video. But the person looked solid, looked real, but it was so weird because we're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's freezing out, and this guy's dressed like this, just walking around in the snow.
Yeah. Yeah. If it were like a reenactment or something, you wouldn't be doing it in the middle of winter, and you'd have more people around.
Exactly.
So that is a good catch.
Yeah, Gettysburg is definitely a cool place. We actually did a house down there. A lady called, and she said that I guess her house was a hospital at some point, and they, on the second floor, they would throw all the arms and legs that they cut off out of the window into the yard. And I was kind of standing like underneath this window, kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, back in the day, they were like cutting people's arms and legs off and throwing them where I'm standing. And there's so much history, and you know, I've probably been to Gettysburg 20 times. I love it there.
Yeah,
I've actually seen historical photos of those piles of limbs. It's just crazy to think about.
Yeah. But it was a good place.
The one time back in the day, the previous girlfriend I was with, we stayed at the Farnsworth Inn, which is supposed to be like one of the most haunted places there. And we stayed in Jeremy's room, who was supposed to be a kid that was, I think, shot. And they had little books in each room that said like experiences you had in that. And they had all these little, you know, stories. But what happened to us is it was, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something, 3:30 in the morning. I got up to go to the bathroom, and the music box started playing by itself. So that was kind of cool. But another thing that was really cool about Farnsworth is when we went, it was wintertime that time too. And there was nobody else there. So they just left us a key. So we went in the place and you pretty much had the place to yourself. So they had a morgue in the basement too, which we actually did the ghost tour, did the morgue tour, went over to like, you couldn't really go on the battlefield at night, but there's like a little area that was kind of by the battlefield, and they gave you like equipment to use, like dowsing rods and K2s and stuff like that. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I know, Blake, behind the school is you can go there after the battlefield's closed.
Yeah, I think that's where we were, because the school was kind of across from Farnsworth. Like there was fields and stuff over that way.
Yeah, and then I don't know, there's that Sachs Bridge, and there's, you know, if you do your history and look around, there's some places that there were battles that they don't consider, you know, like battlefields and woods that you could walk through. And we actually found a place called Suicide Bridge down there that has nothing to do with the Civil War, but I guess all the locals, when they go to kill themselves, they would go to this certain bridge and they'd hang themselves. And I guess there's a lot of people that get pictures of apparitions hanging from this bridge and all kinds of crazy stuff there.
Yeah, so the way that we all met was at the Bel Air house. What were your experiences with the Bel Air house? What do you think about that place?
Yeah, that is a really neat place. I like the fact that it's small enough, or it's big enough where you can have a certain group of people in there. Experiences, it was kind of quiet when we were there. Although it's like we talked about before, you kind of feel things. So if you're up in the attic by yourself, you're down in the basement by yourself, you feel like there's something there. We didn't have, like I said, it wasn't as active as the first weekend that you were there, but it's definitely a place I want to go back to. So yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I don't know. We did have, you know, that first time we were there, we had that dude get possessed, and I never kind of believed in that whole possession thing, but that was definitely an experience that I'll never forget anyway.
Yeah, I was definitely always on the fence with possession too. I mean, as a kid growing up, you know, I was born in like 81, and Exorcist was what, late 70s, I think it was. So, and I saw it when I was a kid, not like a baby, obviously, but probably I'd say within my first 6-8 years of life. And that movie still sticks with me to this day. And up until the Bel Air house, I didn't really know what to think about possession, but I definitely changed my mind a little bit. And it, like some of the stuff that even happened is, I wouldn't say it's as dramatic as the movie or anything, but I was surprised about some of the stuff that happened. And even the guy that got possessed, I don't really talk to him, but I heard from your sister-in-law actually that like he still won't talk about it. So I mean, it had to like traumatize him.
Yeah, because he was sitting there and he's saying, there was stuff going up the steps, and I mean, it was weird. But I know that lasted probably a good hour at least.
Crazy.
And, I went up in the attic by myself afterwards with no equipment or anything and called that thing out. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. I said, this. Then I said to my son, go up in the attic by yourself. He's like, hell no. That I wasn't really afraid of it.
Not after you called it out, he's not going up there.
Yeah, I guess.
So what do you feel about possession? What are some of like your religious beliefs in that?
Yeah, so I'm a Christian. I was raised Catholic, but it's hard for me to get behind that people are possessed to do evil things. So, we talk about people out there who are doing evil things, and they're first, some of them say that I was possessed and the devil made me do it. I don't know if it's just a matter of something because I haven't experienced it, but I tend to be very cautious about believing possession. I'm not sure that I'm ready to pull the trigger and say that I believe that you can be possessed.
So do you have any forms of protection, or do you do any prayers or anything beforehand? Like I try to always have like holy water, and I wear like protection beads. I have them on my hand right now. I don't know, just is there anything you do?
Yeah, just a quick, just a quick prayer before and after, saying, telling spirits that they have to stay where they are, not to follow me home, and I'll come visit again sometime, but you have to stay there, and just a quick prayer of protection before, nothing formal, just kind of a few words of, make sure I'm safe and that I keep my wits about me and that kind of thing. But as far as I don't carry holy water. It's probably a good idea, but I don't have that.
Yeah, I personally don't carry anything. I don't really have any rituals. I kind of feel myself that being alive, I'm more powerful than anything that's already dead. You know what I mean? I should, maybe I, maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of feel like, they're
Tom,
not.
Tom's the one taking cursed objects home with him. So
Yeah, I don't know. I like
Yeah.
with me.
So you were talking about possession and evil people and everything like that. And like, I know one of the big subjects going around right now is the Cecil Hotel and, Richard Ramirez. And, they were saying that he possibly could have been possessed, or he was claiming that. And then like, there's the case in Amityville where the same type of thing, the guy was blaming it on that. Like, do you think any of that has any truth to it?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I want to say it's hard to prove, but then again, a lot of the things we talk about is hard to prove. I just think that for some people, it is the knee-jerk reaction to, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm going to say that the devil made me do it. I'm just not there. Again, it could just be a matter of my not experiencing it myself. I'm just not ready to say, yes, you can be fully possessed. I'm just not there to that point.
Kind of like maybe like an insanity plea, like people plead insanity just so they can get away with something,
Yeah.
I kind of,
It's kind of along the same lines for me. But
I
I'm open, I keep an open mind. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the mind's a pretty powerful object. I think your mind can put you in places like if you were in a traumatic experience, your mind can play tricks on you and whatever and make you do things or make you believe things that aren't true. That's my just like
Yeah.
like a Ouija board, in my opinion. I think if that's all you hear is negativity and you think you're going to have a negative experience with one, you're going to have one. Where if you go with an open mind and whatever, I don't think a Ouija board itself is a bad itself, put it that way.
No, it's just, in my opinion, it's just another form of communication, right? So if you say your Ouija board is bad, then you'd be saying that trigger objects are bad, and asking questions is bad. And I don't believe that it, like some people say, it opens portals. I don't really believe that it does. I just believe it's another form of communication, and it's another tool that you have to be careful with, like all the other tools that we use.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't use one and don't really believe in them much, but you hear all these stories where people are like, oh, Ouija boards are terrible. And, you go in with that attitude, you're going to have a bad experience, in my opinion.
Right. And it's the same people who would say that spirit boxes are fine, but a Ouija board isn't. And I can't make the distinction between the two. I think they're just another form of communication.
I think another thing with the whole evil thing with people like, claiming they're possessed or whatever, I think it also could be environmental too. It could be something either chemical or electrical or something could affect you the way that you act also.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So going off of the Cecil Hotel thing, uh, what was I going to say? I don't know. Can you tell us a common myth about paranormal investigators?
Yeah, so I think a common myth is that sorry, I was getting some feedback here. Sorry. A common myth is that we are out there to get on TV, to make money with what we do. And I don't think that's, for 90% of us, I don't think that's right. I think we are interested in the history of the location where we are, and we're interested in finding, proof of what we believe exists. And we're out there because it's something that we enjoy. We're not all out there to get a TV show. We're not out there to be famous. We're out there to find the history and just to enjoy what it is that what we're looking for. And we're just searching for, that one great piece of evidence that everybody wants to get.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you because, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time and I've done a lot of private homes. And, we didn't charge anybody anything. So we actually lost money on every investigation. We would pay for our gas, we paid for the equipment. A lot of these places were an hour and a half away. We gave up our time. So, I'm not out to make money, but I'm out to help people. And I'm definitely into the history and all that stuff of places that we're going to now. But as far as money and fame and all that, that's crazy if that's why you're into it.
So since this is such a lucrative business, since you guys are both talking about it, say somebody wanted to get started in this, what would be some advice you'd have for them?
Yeah, you don't need to spend a lot of money on equipment. Some of the best experiences I've had is literally with just a voice recorder, walking through, learning about the history of the place where you are. Don't go out and spend a lot of money on equipment, especially because you don't always know how to use it. If you're just starting out, you're learning, basic 101, and you don't do that with all this equipment that is out there. So my very first investigation was in the mid-90s at the Whaley House in San Diego. And it was just me and a friend and literally an old cassette recorder, one of those big cassette recorders. And voice recorders were out of reach as far as expense at that time. And that is still one of my favorite locations, or one of my favorite investigations, because it was just us.
Right. Well, now everyone has smartphones, and I'm not a fan of apps as far as like ghost apps, but you can actually download just the plain digital recorder basically and use that and not spend any money whatsoever.
Yeah, you really don't even have to download one anymore. A lot of phones come with voice recorders like already on them.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get a ghost one because I think they kind of like throw things in at random just to keep your entertainment going. But if you just downloaded some type of plain recorder, I think you'd be all right.
Yeah. And another thing I would tell them too is that it's not like it is on TV. Plan to spend a lot of time where you are. The hour-long TV program is days worth of evidence that they've narrowed down and cut down to an hour. So when you're doing your EVPs, you have to wait for a response. It doesn't come as fast as they say, and you just need to spend your time and don't be in a rush. Take the time that you need to get the evidence that you're looking for.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of some meme that I posted like a few days ago or a week ago or something, where you see like somebody in the Ghostbuster outfit sitting around, shooting ghosts and that. But then on the other side of the meme, it's what it is in real life, and it's just you sitting in the dark with a digital recorder.
Yeah, it's not like it is.
Exactly.
It's not like it is on TV.
And you don't. Yeah. And you don't get something every time, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk away with nothing, you still have experience.
Right.
So what's your favorite piece of equipment?
Yeah, so my favorite piece of equipment is EDI Plus. Some people call it EDI Plus. And it's a data logger, so it's 5 different functions. So it's really good. Again, not want to carry everything with me. So an EDI Plus has an EMF detector, temperature, vibration sensor, and a couple other things in there. So it's just one piece of equipment that you can set down. You don't have to have all other pieces of equipment because it takes the place of that. And then once you're done, you can upload that your raw data to a free website, and it graphs it out for you. So you can see the spikes and the ebbs and the flows, all of those pieces together. And I always say that, when you have an experience, if you have a secondary data source, it just lends more credibility to things that you have captured. So, everybody's controversial orbs or your K2 hits or whatever the case may be. If you've got that secondary data source, it's a really good backup to have. So that is one of my favorite pieces of equipment right now.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to look into getting one of those. I don't think anybody on our team has one, and you're the second person that brought that up.
Yeah, I don't. How much they go for? About, do you know?
I don't recall. It was a little pricey. Yeah, it's a little pricier than I would normally go, but it's one of those things that has been worthwhile. So I want to say it may be even up to the $200 range, which is pricey for me because I'm a solo investigator. But it's definitely been worth it.
Right.
So if you could go anywhere in the world, what would be like your bucket list haunt to go to?
Yeah, so I've got two. One that's a fantasy because I know I'm never going to get there. And then I've got one that there's potential to get there. So my potential is Tala. Again, I was supposed to go last year on a public, but COVID kind of knocked that out. The one that is a fantasy that I will never probably get to is the island of, I forget the exact name, but it's Island of Dolls over in Mexico. So I've got all those dolls hanging from trees. Exact name, but that is the family one. I doubt I will ever get to go see.
Yeah, I know the place you're talking about. I'd love to go there too.
Yeah, cool. I know the place. I don't remember the name though.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Me, I would personally go to Dracula's castle with Vlad the Impaler, and the things that happened there, and the people that were. His frame of mind was just insane, and the things that happened there with him impaling all them people, and there was like a torture chamber in the basement that unimaginable things happen to people. I think if I could go anywhere, that's where I would go.
That's a good choice.
I have a couple different ones. I guess internationally, like I've mentioned Dracula's Castle also. Old Ram's Inn, I think, would be really cool to go to. More continental, I guess, United States, I'd say I want to go to Winchester Mystery House a lot. Which I definitely would probably hit up Alcatraz too, because that's over that way. But
Alcatraz would be a good place to go. Yeah, Alcatraz would really be a good place to go.
Have you ever been to Minesville, Peggy?
No, I have not.
Minesville's a really cool place.
I know that Tom mentioned it. Yeah, I know that Tom has mentioned that before when we were at the Bel Air house. I think, did you actually go out? And
it's like 15 minutes down the road or whatever from Bel Air.
Yeah.
I did an overnight investigation there years ago, and it was a pretty cool experience. Definitely worth going to. I would go again.
I've only done public stuff there before, but I'd love to do something private. The thing is, like when we actually booked our bachelor party, we looked into that place, but we didn't think we'd have as much people. So it would have been cheaper to book there instead, but we didn't realize we were going to have so many people come with us.
Right.
But I've had a couple experiences there, like on public ones with my daughter's mother in the past. We went, and one of the things, I think I've showed you the picture, Tom. I have a picture of it's something was standing behind me, and like I thought it was a person. And I turned around, I took a picture, and you see like a white mist in the picture. I'm pretty sure I've showed that to you. And then there was another thing when we were in the cafeteria, when you walk through the door or whatever to go into the cafeteria, the door slammed on my girlfriend at the time.
Right.
So I don't know. I love Minesville. I'd love to go there privately.
Yeah, I know when we went, we had a little guy, creepy guy that walked us around, showed us all the hot spots, went down to Sugar Shack, all that
Mm.
good stuff. And he's like, I think we had it from midnight to 5 in the morning or something like that. And he's like, you have the run of the place, do whatever you want. He's like, I wouldn't suggest going anywhere alone. So I'm like, screw you. So I start going down.
Tom's the rebel.
And like his jail cell door slammed like right there. And I'm like, okay. So that kind of put me on. So I kind of hung out with other people after that.
Well, that's like the one time I was there, we went on Halloween for a public thing. Like they have their haunted house. So we did the haunted house and they have a thing called the North Walk. So we did the North Walk, which is like, I think like a 90-minute tour. But one of the people that was in our group was related to Red. I don't know if you know who Red is. He was like a known person in that prison that used to like run that prison. It was one of his relatives. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I know when we went on that private one that we actually found all the stuff they used for the haunted house and all that. They had like a storage unit or wherever. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
So Peggy, if you don't want to do this for like money or fame or nothing like that, what's your bigger picture? How do you do this?
I do it because I love it. Like I said, some of these places just call to me. And of course, we're always searching for that one piece of evidence that is going to, make skeptics believe, kind of thing. But I do it for data too. I think that we gather all this evidence, but I don't know that we do anything with it. And so I kind of like the research side of things and tying in what we find to the story, the history of the location where we're at. And so that's really what keeps me going. It's just interesting to me, and I don't know that I'm ever going to stop doing it.
So is it more of a hobby to you, or would you like to do something like long-term with it?
No, it's more of a hobby. I don't know that I would ever do it as a profession. I've never, I know that you guys have mentioned you've gone to people's houses and helped them. I've never been on that side of it. And I'm not sure that that's for me. I just kind of like being my solo investigator and finding locations that interest me and seeing what I see.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough gig to make money unless you get a TV show or something like that. But as far as just your everyday normal person like us, it's a really hard field to make money in my opinion anyway. And I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it, I'm in it because I like to do it. And, you can enjoy doing something forever, not make a lot of money doing it, put it that way.
Yeah.
There's always a way to make money, Tom.
We lose. Like you mentioned, we lose money because we have to pay to go to these places. So, but that's okay.
So do you have any upcoming stuff?
Yeah. So my year is pretty much set. I try and go someplace at least every month. So I've got a lot of things coming up. I'm going to Madison a couple of times. I'll be going to Fairfield. The owner of Madison owns Fairfield County from Lancaster, Ohio. I've got Ohio State Reformatory. Then I've got some new ones that I haven't been to before that will allow me to go privately as solo investigator. So I found some locations that will allow me to do that. So the price was right. So I'm pretty much set for that. How about you guys?
We actually have a lot of stuff coming up. Next Friday, no, not Friday. Was it Saturday, Tom? Saturday.
I have it all written down somewhere.
We're going to Grand Midway Hotel, which me and Jen went there for our wedding anniversary, actually.
Oh yeah, I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed in the vampire suite with the coffins and all that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I forgot to mention next Friday I'm going to Eloise Asylum in Michigan.
Okay.
I've forgotten about that. But yeah, no, that looks the Grand. What's the Grand something hotel again? I'm sorry, what was
Grand Midway Hotel.
Okay, yeah, that looks like an interesting place.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they actually, the guy owns a church too, and he's going to let us investigate the church also, which actually has
Nice.
he has a collection of Anne Rice's dolls actually in this church, so that should be pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to buy one of them things off that guy. I wonder how much I'll have to pay him.
But they also, and we have, we're going to probably do a public one, like where we bring some people on or whatever. I think at Dead Man's Hollow in April. Then we have that convention in May. We have the Haldeman Mansion in May. I'm trying to think everything. June, I think we're going to Minesville as a public, just because the whole team can't make it. So we're just going to do the public one. July, we don't technically have anything right now. Maybe we'll see what's going on with that. August is Madison. And then I think possibly Conneaut September, and then Hillview. And actually Darmine's coming up too. March 20th is Darmine.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. We just got to figure it all out. I have it written down, but.
And there's a bunch of like free local places too that we could always go to. Like I've never been out to Blue Mist, which I don't know if you know anything about that because you're from Ohio, but it's like a known place in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
There's a couple other like free known, like there's Cascade Park, which is kind of out by Newcastle Slippery Rock. It's an old amusement park where somebody died on the roller coaster and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it should be a good year.
I didn't know that you guys went to Shawnee as well, like Shawnee Amusement Park. How was your experience there? That's one of the things I'd be interested in.
Well, Tom fell out of the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, you know me. I had to try to climb the Ferris wheel, and that didn't work out well.
He actually like stumbled and like did a somersault on the. It was amazing.
You know, it was a good time.
That would have been worth it just to see that.
Because I know we got there, and there was a guy that owned a property, and, you know, I guess his mom is the one that owns the property, and he showed us around. But, you know, we took tents, and we ate, and we had a good time. And, I mean, it was a cool experience. Even,
Good.
you know, just the weekend itself was fun.
Yeah, the whole experience was really cool. I mean, just like camping, hanging out with everybody. And only thing I didn't really like was the bugs. There was tons of bugs because I think it was August, I think, when we were there. So it was pretty hot,
Yeah.
a lot of bugs. There was a couple interesting things that happened to us. Like one thing was up where the burial grounds were, we heard like, I don't know, it was like dogs barking or howling or something coming from the woods. We have that actually on film. And you were talking about seeing a figure, Native American, when you were younger. I saw something, I don't know if it was a shadow figure or what, but walking through the woods. That's when me and Luke, your son or whatever, Tom, all of us walked over by where the outhouse was. We were getting readings over there. And we basically followed it to this tree, which there was nothing at the tree, but it was, I definitely saw something, and there was a lot of K2 hits. And another thing actually at Shawnee that happened is when we went to use the bathroom was like way off from where we're at. We heard, me, Jen, and my son, us three went to the bathroom. We heard like, I don't know if it was like kids singing or what, but like it couldn't have been anybody because there's a lady that lives on the property, but first off, she's really far away. There was no kids.
Right.
And I don't know. Another thing too that Jen saw during the day is she thought Tom's brother was actually walking across the pond, like on the other end of the pond. And she asked him, and he was like, no, I wasn't there, because she saw somebody walking by in the morning. So there's a couple of cool things. And another thing too that happened is by the Ferris wheel, my son's name was set on a spirit box, which that might not be nothing major, but it happens all the time. Like my son's name's Cameron, and it's happened there. It's happened at Hillview. It happened, I think, at Dead Man's Hollow. Like they always say his name for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's not like a common old fashioned name, right?
Yeah. It's
So
not
that's
even like a Mike or a John or nothing either. Like it's
right. Right. Wow. That is really cool.
But I'd recommend Shawnee. Like Shawnee, I'd love to go back. I don't know if I think we'd probably get a motel this time, maybe stay till like 4 and then get a motel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought there was like a big fire pit, and they really let you go. It's not like they checked on you. I mean, we had to run at a place, and you know, they told us we could have a fire, and we set up tents, and you know, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked that part myself.
I like the whole part. I just didn't like. I couldn't really sleep, so like I need a bed to sleep. Like we were on an air mattress in like a 2-person tent, but I mean at least the tent wasn't as bad as Luke's tent.
Yeah, that was, well, you know.
That was like a little kid's tent. The tent he was in. Anyway, though, you have anything you want to plug? Any social media pages, anything like that?
No, it's
No?
just me.
It's you.
All right. Well,
It's just me. I don't have a team, so it's just me.
Tom, is there anything else you got to say?
No, basically, you know, this is our third one. I want to thank the people for supporting us, and, you know, we'd love to have anybody on who wants to talk to us. You know, we support other teams. Other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, I'd like to add some to that too. This is actually our second time running through this. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't tell you that we kind of fucked up, and that's on us. So we just want to thank Peggy for being a good sport. Didn't record the first time,
I tried to remember my answers from the first time to make sure they were the same. Great. Thanks so much, guys. I really loved chatting with you, and I appreciate your asking me to be on.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
There we go.
Walk in the night.